Hello and welcome to another edition of Experimental Design, Discourse, and Disclosure. I'm Darren Jackal. I'm in the studio and I'm going to be talking about product development, design, and mountaineering. When I think of camping, I think of two seasons. The first season is the bear and the bug season, where I'm trying to escape the bugs and I don't want to attract the bears. So I'm going to be camping in a classic triangle formation where my camp is separate from where I'm cooking and also separate from where I'm keeping the food. Precipitation is going to be in the form of rain, and I'll be able to find liquid water for cooking. The other season, in my opinion, is the snow season, where the bugs are dead and the bears are asleep, and I'm not worried about camping in a classic triangle. In this instance, precip is going to be in the form of snow. I'm going to be sleeping on that snow, and I can also use that snow as part of my structure for my shelter, and I'll be melting that snow for my water. When I first started winter camping, I used snow shelters, and for the first few years, this is what I used exclusively. You always needed to leave a little bit of extra time at the end of the day and energy to build these things. I always thought there might be a better way to go, and in the late 80s, I was introduced to the Chouinard Megamid. The Megamid has been a great winter shelter for many reasons, and over the past 20 years, I've been using it as a foundation for the development of my very specialized winter shelter. I call it the FTR, or From the Road. This is meant for a 3-person rope team camping high when going for summits in the winter. When it comes to designing new products, I'm willing to take chances, and when it came to the Megamid, although it was great in winter camping, I thought there were some significant improvements I could make. What I found with the Megamid is that with 3 people inside of it, it's crowded and difficult to get in and out of the tent if you need to go outside to get some snow to melt, or if you need to go and use the washroom. So this tent is not 4-sided, it's 3 sides, and those 3 sides are pulled to 6 sides into a hexagon and 3 doors. So each person has their own door. It's like having 3 individual tents that all come together. And the most interesting part of it is that it has an integrated boiler. When I first developed this tent, I felt that cooking inside the tent was very difficult, not very practical, and that there could be significant improvements. All right, let's make a coffee and talk product development and design process. As I said, I practice a needs-based, user-focused new product development process. There are other product development processes, and not all of them include a design portion. This is something like a Me Too company that is using reverse engineering to essentially rip off a competitor's product. It's also what I consider to be fashion-driven. An example of this would be an electronics or an appliance organization that is essentially redoing the housing on their products. So nothing real new, just the appearance has changed. Third would be something like a tech-driven company that has a new technology, a new manufacturing method, but they don't have any use for it yet. So these guys are out looking for new markets. So let's now talk a little bit about the design process. As I was saying, I use an evolutionary-based process. So the important part of the design process is the generation of the new individuals that will inhabit our environment. This is an academic exercise where you are generating a fitness function. So you're studying the user and you're trying to find things that you can quantify. You need to be able to give that factor a value. And then, depending on how important that is, you need to give it a weight. That you want to quickly start this, but you're only really using it to come up with initial ideas. And from those initial ideas, you want to create what I call behavior models, or contraptions. And you want to get those contraptions back into the hands of your users, your real users, so you can observe their reaction to them and you can see how it affects them. When I am developing outdoor products, I can be considered an informed user, and I will not have to necessarily find other users to get feedback from. But this isn't always the case if you are developing something for a client and you are not an informed user. This was the case for me for about 14 years when I was doing medical product development. And it was incredibly important for us to get back to the user with our initial ideas. This is because a user will often tell you what they need, but it's very important to observe them in their own environment. That math environment that you created is just a metaphor. And this is going to tell you whether or not your mathematical environment, your fitness function, is actually on track. Then you need to evaluate your fitness function and adjust it or adapt it as need be. So finally, I'll just say, if anyone is out there who wants to be a designer, you have to also be a strategist. You're going to be required to do strategic planning. You are going to be working with intellectual property, so you need to have IP strategy. If you're going to be working with business, you need to develop your contracts, and you need to have what I consider to be most important is an exit strategy. Let's take a quick look at the variation side of the evolutionary process. This is where we're going to get our new ideas from, and in the evolutionary theory that we base our understanding of evolution around is that new individuals come from essentially two sources. One is sexual recombination, where you have two parents and an offspring that gives you a new combination. That individual then enter your environment, and the lower the number that they attain through the weighted matrix, the closer they're going to get to the center of the circle. Or if we view it as a mountain, the higher the mountain they will climb. The second, and what I think is the most important and the most interesting, is the mutation side of evolution. These are the mistakes, the errors, the faults, the misinterpretations, the misunderstandings, the misreads. This is what I consider to be the very powerful aspect of evolution. This is where you get things like the beautiful accident or the valuable mistake. And it's important for designers to be able to recognize the power of mutation. When I decided I wanted to put a boiler in a tent, I also wanted to come up with a way to have the stack support the tent so that it was structurally integral. I wanted to combine the center pole with the chimney. I saw the hot tent guys using this thin titanium or stainless steel shim stock as a chimney. That immediately gave me the idea to take the center pole and split it into three to provide an opening for the chimney to come out the very top of the tent, and also provide a really stable structure for the tent itself. For a product to be patentable, it has to have three qualities. It has to be useful, it has to be new or novel, and that it can't have been disclosed before patent application, and it can't be obvious. It has to be non-obvious to someone who is versed in the field of the invention. So is any of this stuff patentable? It might be, but once I publish this, I hope to make it ineligible for patents, because that is my strategy. I don't have the deep pockets to pay for patent applications or to enforce my patents. So it's best for me to maintain my freedom to operate by making sure that these things are disclosed to the public. So stay tuned. I'm going to talk a lot more about the development of this whole idea, and I'm going to make some connections in the product development, industrial design, and design process phase of things that might be interesting. So that's it. I'm Darren Jackal. This is my studio. I'm going to talk about product development, design, mountaineering. This is experimental design, discourse, and disclosure. We'll see you next time.